We can to try to make this space welcoming and engaging for you to the best of our ability. I want to just introduce you and welcome you all to the space. Personally, I will say that I was very inspired and moved by the protests that happened in Cal Poly Humboldt in the spring. I was very much connected to the threads and the pain of the deaths in Gaza. And tonight's conversation is very much driven by a desire to continue honest, compassionate, and sincere dialogue and conversation.
Good evening, everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's a new experience for me to have the whole event shut down so we can do our prayer. I was ready to slip aside. I appreciate the respect and the patience. That means a lot to us. I'm not speaking on just my behalf today. I have the backing of several communities, Muslim, Jewish, and Christian, who are praying for the success of this event. And the success of this event is from the grace of God, and then nice and noble, patient, kind human beings who are here to come and to learn and gain the facts that they need and have this amazing, sit down to break bread as neighbors and to hear different perspectives. I appreciate you all for being here. I'm going to be as brief as possible, simply just to respect your time. I do have faith in humanity. And one thing we have in common, I would hope, is that we do not tolerate things like genocide or apartheid or ethnic cleansing. And we sure can't be silently complicit in it. Well, the question is that what is going on? And that's what I hope to answer in our discussions. Also, rabbis against genocide would like to have a word. I'm here today to cut through the noise and the government-sponsored rhetoric that is just distracting people from the horrors that are taking place and preventing or delaying the appropriate response. There's a lot of confusion out there. People see a lot of nuance and a lot of this and a lot of stuff. What is the point? Let's cut through all of that and understand some context. There are millions of dollars, understand, that are being spent to convince you of lies or false narratives. And I'm here to dispel some of those false narratives, as if you pay attention with me, you'll be able to see. One is a notion that today we're dispelling together, is that this is a Jewish and anti-Jewish thing, where it's Zionism is affiliated with Judaism and you have to be both to be one. As we can see that is not true. And again, rabbis against genocide would like a word. As well as my dear friends at Jewish Voice for Peace. Also, one of my dearest uncles who I grew up in his lap, listening to his stories, going through the woods, having to dig his way in Austria, in the forest, under the ground, to not be caught by the Nazi dogs. A Holocaust survivor who became a Muslim and is buried next to my father immediately in the cemetery in Oregon. I would like to build a different layer, as Professor Lee was saying, a different layer of context, preceding what she talked about and on top of it and with more details about some words she used like conflict and so on, and what that really actually means in reality. So, with the beginning of the advent of the message of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, one of his closest companions, Omar, was the one who was the leader of the Muslims in that very same generation. When the Muslims were given the key, that there was a peaceful transfer of power and an agreement that was made with the Christian leaders of Jerusalem. This provides a context that kind of answers this notion that there's a lot of money that is being spent, believe it or not, to make you see that Arabs or Palestinians are some kind of violent human animals that unleash, and if you don't keep them behind these walls, they're going to go out and massacre everyone because they're taught hate from their religion or it just runs in their veins. Let's see what Islam teaches from the very get-go. was one of the first things that he did? He went to the Temple Mount and he saw it covered with garbage. The Christian leadership of Jerusalem said that they were banning the Jews from having access to their holy site. One of the first things that he did was to start bending down and clearing up the trash immediately while being given the tour of the city, and giving the Jews access to the Temple Mount immediately after the Muslims entered. And he also refused to pray in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, because he said that people will want to build a mosque where I first prayed when they came to Jerusalem, and I don't want them to wrongfully destroy a religious historic site. I believe it was that specific church. I may be wrong. There's plenty of professors who can correct me on that one. Salah ad-Din, Saladin. The Muslims and Jews and Christians lived in peace for a long time, as Professor Lee said. We should not gloss over that. There was hundreds and hundreds of years of peaceful coexistence. The Crusades then happened, and blood was to the knees. The Muslims came back. They had mercy on many of the transgressors, and when he re-entered into Jerusalem, he pardoned so many people, and it was done in a peaceful and the most beautiful way that he could possibly do it. And then Muslims lived and went under Muslim leadership. The Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived in peace. So, blaming it on Islam or blaming it on being Arab or something like that as some kind of savages, this is nonsense rhetoric that, there are some people who benefit from you falling for that tired old story, so please don't fall for it. Okay? We're going to forward to, I forgot what the professor referred to it as, but the incidents around the Nakba. And she did a very good job of detailing the plots that were done in order to usurp the land of a people. You can do whatever you want on paper. You can call it a nation a state or a nation state or whatever you want to do behind legal proceedings and start the League of Nations and then the UN and whatever. That means nothing to people who live on the land. That's the problem they encountered. So now they're like, okay, well, legally we've manufactured our way to kind of be able to start doing this thing, but hey, we still have a problem that these people have been here forever, and we need to get them off the land. So, how about we go up to the village of Deir Yassin and start slaughtering all the men and taking the women and girls, stripping them naked, photographing them, then slaughtering them, taking those pictures to different villages. How do you clear 500 villages and 750,000 people? You tell them, you want this to happen to you, then fight us. If you just run away, then where did those people go? West Bank, and they were forced, many of them, into Gaza. That's the story of Gaza. They are people who were displaced, were already taken out of their homes, and they're pushed into the corner of their very own country. It's like somebody takes over your house. There's a comic that I saw. A guy's running out of his house. He's like, help me, help me, help me. What's going on? Oh, the people that I trap in my attic, they kidnapped my wife. What do you want me to do? Oh, help me. It's like, there's an easy solution here, the more you transgress, the harder it is to repair your transgression. So hopefully that's the direction we see moving forward. But whether they decide to or not, we have to do whatever is in our power not to be complicit in that. Which is the reason why this is much more relevant an issue than Sudan and anything else, which we are helping. And I'm personally, you would be surprised to know my part in those other problems that are going around the world. But this one, my taxpayer dollars are contributing to, and I'm a part of it. So if I don't speak, then I'm guilty. I'm going to stand in front of God on the day of judgment. And for everybody here who's God-fearing, then please consider that. Okay? So what happened? That was April 9th, 1948. That was what led immediately to May 14th, 1948, which was the incidence of what? The creation of Israel. So that's the context in which the genocide and ethnic cleansing, and I'll call it what anybody who's fair would call it, I believe, and you're free to disagree with me, that's what it was established upon. And don't get that wrong. Don't conflate that with Judaism. This was Zionism. These were Zionists who were given arms by ill-meaning people. There was a strategic reason why the British wanted to control that region, and they found a nice ally or religious whatever. Okay, we'll work together. Yes, and Golda Meir was a passport-carrying Palestinian, so who was treated with dignity and equal rights, and she was, a Palestinian citizen. So now, I want to make a few things clear then, given all of that. On behalf, again, of the Rabbis Against Genocide, this is not an issue of Judaism or not Judaism. It is anti-Semitic, though, to imply that to be anti-genocide or to call it genocide is anti-Semitic. That's what's anti-Semitic, is that somehow you're against Jews if you call a genocide. That's crazy to me. Okay? Genocide is the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. By definition, that's genocide. If you define it as mass killings without morals and scruples and the breaching of international law and committing war crimes, then know that Israel has been condemned by the international community and courts and etc. For those exact things. If you were to try to attend the funeral of each child that was just killed in the last few months, one a day, it would take you almost 50 years. Those are their names. I didn't know that was going to be there. I'm not working with those guys. I think they were mad at me. They think I'm being tokenized, but I'm not. The organizers are amazing. Please be fair and respect everything amazing that they did. They put themselves under pressure. They're being attacked by, from both sides. So God bless them and everybody who's participating. Okay? We're neighbors. I want to reiterate the point of this. We're neighbors. We're friends. We're in this together, and we have to come as a country to the right conclusion and stop aiding genocide. I'll give you some more context. Gaza itself, when they forced the people there, and I'll conclude with this, they forced all these people into a small area, and they controlled their water supply and the food supply and everything that's coming in, and even in the West Bank, all the checkpoints and everything, just to squeeze the life out of a people who, in Gaza, a female scientist, a girl, she learned a way, she developed a method of turning rubble into cement blocks or blocks that could be used to build new buildings. That's the type of innovation and the survival instinct and amazing initiative that those survivors do. Before the genocide, they had an average of 5 hours of electricity per day. 80% of their water is not fit for human consumption, and there are many more facts like this. This is and the genocide is only taking place because of our support in the United States. And by the way, the Lancet, which is a medical journal in America, estimates that the amount of dead is, I believe, 186,000, and not the other figures that you're hearing. In conclusion, when you have the whole world, including South Africa, tell you that apartheid is taking place, it's probably apartheid. South Africa says that it is. When you have the whole world, including Native American victims of genocide, telling you it is genocide, it's probably genocide. When your side has to silence the youth and find creative ways to restrict free speech, then you know that deep injustice is taking place and you're on the wrong side of it. When you have all of these things together, you have an abomination and an insult to humanity that we are all responsible for and we support with our tax dollars, and hopefully we leave this program and this coming few days with the determination that we will not be complicit. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank Abubakr for speaking so persuasively and respectfully on such painful matters. He spoke in a way that I think people can really hear his message, and that's an important part. We're not just talking about Palestine and Israel, we're talking about how we talk about them. We want to have effective communication. We want to come to something like this and go home saying, I learned something, I changed my mind. My mind opened, I understand more, especially I understand subtleties. So I really appreciate your speech, darling. You're wonderful, just wonderful. Such a wonderful person. and I appreciate everyone for listening so attentively.